very cool.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Rivera. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over today's case. The date is July 9th, 2026, and this is case SEZ2025-00021. It is a special exception request for a wireless communication facility in the Southeast Lee County planning community. Because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, all evidence and testimony must be taken under oath. So if you intend to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll provide is the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you. So the way that we'll proceed this morning is first we're going to hear from the applicant. They're going to present their request in the case and call any witnesses that they may have in support of their request. Following their presentation, we will hear from the county staff who will present their review and recommendation in the case. In this case, they are recommending approval with some conditions. After we hear from the county staff, I'll call forward the cards that I have in the order that I have them for public comment. That is the opportunity to place any comments that you have into the record. There is only one opportunity to speak, so I would encourage you to take notes as we go through things this morning so that you can make the most of the time that you have at the podium. Because this is a special exception request, this is the final hearing on this matter, so anything that you would like to say today would be the opportunity to put those comments into the record. And with that, we will come back after we do actually one more item, sorry. We will come back to the applicant and the staff following the public comment for their rebuttal and any closing comments that they have, and then we would close the hearing for today. I do have the applicant's 48-hour letter, and that is pre-marked as applicant's exhibit 1. I also have staff, their staff report was pre-labeled as staff exhibit 1, and their 48-hour letter was staff exhibit 2. That did include the affidavit of publication, which was legally sufficient to proceed with today's hearing. Now we can begin with the applicant. Thank you. And good morning.
Good morning. I have a presentation for you.
Yes, thank you. So that will now be applicant exhibit 2. Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Mary Solik, 121 South Orange Avenue, Suite 1500, Orlando, Florida. I represent Vertex Development, LLC, who is the applicant in this particular proceeding. We are seeking special exception approval for a 149-foot monopole tower located in the southeast portion of Lee County. Next slide, please. This is an aerial overview of the area in which the tower is going to be located. The red star is the location of the tower. Do we not have a pointer?
Is there?
Is there a pointer, do you know, Brianna, on
There
that?
might be on that
Typically
thing.
is.
I've never used it though.
Oh. Well, I will do my best to describe without a pointer. The red star. Oh, this is Jennifer Frost, who's project manager with Vertex. I should have introduced our team as well. Alan Ruiz is the principal of Vertex Development. In front row, we have Alexa Ruiz, another Vertex employee. All the way over against the wall is George Brousseau, who is the RF engineer from AT&T, who is the anchor tenant. And behind him is David Talby, who is our state-certified real estate appraiser, who will talk about property values. Okay, let me get you oriented. State Road 82 on the north. And we have, this property is uniquely located. We've got Hendry County up in the corner there. The blue lines are the county lines. Collier County is to the east, and you go down below Corkscrew Road, and just below that, the Collier County line kind of wraps around the side. Next slide. The address of the subject property is 227051 Mulholland Drive. It's a 10-acre conforming parcel, zoned Ag 2. It has a future land use designation of density groundwater resource, which adds a few comp plan policy applications that we'll discuss later. The use of the property currently is for a mobile home. Ag zoning is considered a non-residential zoning category under the Lee County regulations. The towers up to 75 feet are a permitted use in ag zoning. Anything over 75 feet but up to 149 is a special exception. 149 is the maximum height allowed in this zoning category. Next slide, please. We've overlaid our compound and our access road on this aerial of the subject property. Our access is coming off Mulholland Drive on the south. The white roof area is the existing mobile home on site. And we have tucked this tower up in the northwest corner of the site to allow the size of the 10-acre parcel to absorb as much of the impact of the tower on site from travelers on Mulholland Drive. Next slide, please. Again, this is a setback aerial. The next few slides I'm going to show you all are excerpts from our site plans and our landscape plans, so I'd like to go ahead and admit those right now. They're listed, there's two different listings for those on our exhibit list. Those are the site plans that Ms. Frost is handing you, and that's the landscape plan.
Okay, and just for clarification, do these match identically what I had as the existing plans that were in?
Yes.
Because I did review those.
Yes, there's no change to the plans.
Thank you. Okay, that would be attachment D, which was labeled. So this matches just in a larger format? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so our compound square is up there in the corner. It's an 80 by 80 lease area with a 50 by 50 compound area and a 15-foot wide landscape buffer. We have a 149-foot proposed fall zone radius, which means in the unlikely event of tower collapse, the tower would fall on the parent parcel itself. The gray area is our access road. Our setbacks are 150 feet to the north property line, 434.75 feet to the east property line, 574.25 to the south property line, and 151.5 to the west, which meets all code criteria for setbacks. Okay, this is just, this table also comes from our plans, and this is just a graphic representation of our setbacks. We're required to be 149 feet from all property lines. On the right-hand side of the column, we list the provided distances we meet or exceed that 145.9 feet in all directions. We also have to meet zoning district setbacks. Those are in the lower left-hand portion of that column, and we meet or greatly exceed all of those setbacks as well. There is also a 25-foot wetland setback. There is a very, very small pond southwest of the tower, and we're 150 feet away from that little small pond. Okay, next slide, please. This is an enlargement of our compound layout. We have 4 lease pads where it says future lease area. Those are the pads for the carrier's ground equipment. We have a 15-foot code required landscape buffer, an 8-foot chain link fence, the required parking and turnaround areas for access, and all of these dimensions meet code criteria. We are not seeking any deviations or variances today as part of our application.
So the tower can accommodate up to 4 carriers. At this time, are there any other providers aside from AT&T that
No.
you know?
Next slide. Here's our elevation drawing. You've done this before. You've had a few of these. Okay, this is our elevation drawing. It's capable of supporting 4 carriers. AT&T is the anchor tenant. In reality, there are only 3 licensed carriers left in your marketplace, but the tower will be engineered and designed and capable of supporting 4 carriers. AT&T is proposed to be at the top. And as we like to say in the tower business, if you build it, they will come. We anticipate once the steel is in air, additional carriers will co-locate on the tower as their needs and budgets allow.
Okay, and the shared use plan was provided, I believe, as part of the record.
Yes, yes, and we'll put, let's
I
just
don't want to get ahead, but yes, if you,
Um,
here, so you can get
yes,
to it in your
right.
presentation.
Next slide. Okay, additional application submittal requirements. You are on the spot here. So these are additional things that we have to submit as part of our application. They've all been reviewed and vetted and verified by your staff. So let's put them in one by one. First is the survey.
Thank you. And just to confirm again, these match the items if
Yes.
they were already in the record. So
Yes, there is no changes. And the shared use plan.
And I'm sorry, Debbie, I should be identifying these. So the site plans were applicant exhibit 3, the survey is applicant exhibit 4, the shared use plan will be applicant exhibit 5.
I need you to do that. Put the exhibit numbers.
Okay, let me check. Yes, this would be 6.
Wait,
We got FCC license, or now the memorandum of lease with the property owner, another additional application submittal requirement.
This is the memorandum of lease.
Okay, thank you. So this went, what was
This is
that?
the FCC licenses. Well,
Yeah,
what exhibit number is that?
So memorandum is number 6.
Yes, so let's pause 1 second. We're getting ahead of ourselves. All right, so 1 was the 48-hour letter, 2 is the presentation, 3 were the site plans, 4 was the survey, 5 is the shared use plan, 6 was the memo of lease. So
Okay,
now we
yes.
are to,
The FCC licenses.
okay, thank you.
so there's 7.
This was 6. 5.
Back to
Yeah, 5 was shared use, 6 was FCC.
oriented this correctly. Those will not do.
What was number 7?
When we're done,
7 is the FCC license.
when we're done, we'll go back and double check our list.
Okay. So then was the memorandum 6?
The memorandum was 6, yes.
Zoning
Thank you.
has to do that.
Accepting responsibility for code compliance.
And that will be 8.
I'm sorry, there's just so much paperwork involved.
No, I appreciate the thoroughness. So that- Okay,
The FAA determination.
Well, now, there are other agency approvals, so let's go to the next slide. The first one is the FAA determination of no hazard issued by the FAA. This is also a determination that the tower does not have to have any lighting on it.
and do you want the agency letters as a composite exhibit, or do you want them in?
We could do it that way if you'd like.
Let's do that. We'll do a composite exhibit of all agency letters as number 9.
Okay, so let me just. I'll let you mark them and I'll explain to you what
Thank
they
you.
are.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. And then I'll go through these. Thank you. So you've got the FAA.
FAA, the next one is our tall structure permit that's issued by the Lee County Port Authority. Again, approval. Next one is the Lee County Mosquito Control District, and this is an email, not a letter, but they have no objection to the tower. The next one is from the Lee County Public Safety Office, no objection. And the next is from the Lee County Sheriff's Office, no objection. And that would be the composite exhibit. Okay. Let's see. No, available existing towers. Oh, okay. This is the one we have. These are some interesting statistics that we got from the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and these are the data that they collect about how 911 calls come into the Sheriff's Office. And the bottom line is that over the years, we're over 80% in the last 5 years of all E911 calls have originated from cell phones over the past 5 years, underscoring the critical role of reliable wireless coverage in supporting public safety. And I don't have an exhibit for that, it's just in the presentation. Okay, we have additional burdens of proof in this case, and the next one is that there are no available existing towers that we can use. And we must establish that there are none, and the closest tower is 2.3 miles to the north and is outside of the geographic search area. So the blue circle is a 1 mile ring around the Rancho Vida site, the proposed tower, and you'll see 3 towers along 82 that are the closest towers to this particular location. I'm going to call George Brousseau up here now from AT&T, and you know yeah, we're going to do them one at a time. Let's put the existing towers map in.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to qualify them first.
Good morning, my name is George Brousseau. I'm the principal design engineer for AT&T Mobility. I reside at 7473 Southeast Jamestown Terrace in Hobe Sound, Florida.
And by whom are you employed?
AT&T,
For how long?
26 years now.
And what is your role at AT&T?
I'm the network design manager for the lower half of Florida and have been for the past 26 years.
Have you ever been qualified as an RF expert in a proceeding such as today?
Yes.
Have you ever been qualified in this tribunal?
Yes.
Okay. And is this your resume?
Yes.
And I hand you his resume, and I would tender Mr. Brousseau as an expert.
Thank you. The Brousseau resume will be applicant Exhibit 11.
And did you accept him as an expert?
Yes, he is accepted.
Okay. So, Mr. Brousseau, I have showed you this exhibit up on the screen. Is this a document that you prepared?
Yes, it is.
And when did you prepare it?
In June of 25.
And was that prepared in anticipation of Vertex submitting the application that we're here on today?
Yes.
What does this assessment demonstrate?
It just shows the distance from the proposed tower to our existing towers at the time that this was created.
Okay, so the pink dot is the proposed Vertex tower,
That's correct.
and you're showing a tower up to the northwest on 82,
Yes,
5.4 miles away,
that's correct.
and the tower to the northeast, 3.6,
Correct.
and then the closest one to the south.
5.5 miles, yes.
There's another tower in the middle there. You can kind of see it says Lazy Susan Recreation Complex. Is that a tower that you can use?
Yes, we are actually transmitting on that tower today.
So since the date of June 25 and today, you have now co-located on that tower?
That's correct.
So is that tower an additional, what we call search ring versus the Vertex search ring that we're talking about
That's
today?
correct. It was a separate search ring.
Okay. Are there any other towers in your search area near the Vertex location that could meet your needs?
No.
Okay. I don't have, do you have any questions for him?
I'm sure I will have several, but I want you to finish.
I'm,
Okay.
I'm,
And then we need to enter this.
yes, let's put that, the structure assessment in. Hang tight, George, you can
Will
probably.
he also be presenting the propagation maps at some point, or is that, have those been entered into the record?
No, we're not required to submit propagation maps as part of our evidence, so we did not do that. Our burden of proof is just to establish that there are no existing structures we can use.
Okay, then can I ask my questions now?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the question, I have it, I think, every time you're here, just because I think it's worth understanding for everyone that's here. A geographic search ring, can you just explain how that term is identified in your industry and how you go about determining what that ring is? Because your testimony just now was that there is that tower at Lazy Susan. So can you explain why that is in a separate ring and not sufficient to provide the coverage that you're trying to achieve on this?
Yes, so the way that our projects come to creation, there's two types of projects. There's a capacity relief project, and that's a need to provide a solution where one of the sites, maybe one or more of the sectors, is congesting to a point where it can't handle the traffic, so calls start to block and not get through, so it needs to have some relief. And you can do that by adding more radios, more spectrum, which we do to the extent of all the spectrum that we have available. And over the years, the carriers keep bidding and getting more spectrum as the FCC releases it. But to date, we have all the spectrum that we have in service. So the one along 82 was a capacity relief solution for the site to the northwest. And therefore, the search ring would have been in between the two sites, and it would have been a distance of about a quarter to a half a mile circle, put right in the middle of it, and then that goes out to the site acquisition community to try to find any kind of tower that's built or any buildable property that can kind of move forward. And you see the little blue X's, that comes from the FCC's database of existing registered towers. That's how that little cross shows up on there. So that would be a capacity solution. Then we have every phone, every laptop, every device is constantly talking to the network, whether you're on it or not. And we collect, aggregate all that data and put it on layers of mapping. Everything we do is multiple layers of mapping. So we can see what the instruments are actually telling the network the signal conditions are, the level, the interference, and that kind of thing. So we can tell where the signal is weak and the users are actually using it, and therefore there are some areas that need to be improved as the loads in that continue to grow. And then there's also kind of a general matrix topology to a network. So there's kind of, you know, on a matrix it has node points. So that's where you would look to add a site to fit the existing sites in the network. So your new site doesn't now create interference while you're trying to solve a solution. So this particular one was put out there because there's some low signal level in the area, and then there's also known growth that's happening in the area. And that's happening all over the state, and where we can't get something in there to kind of put a footprint in those spaces, as that development happens, now everybody from the builders to the residents and visitors all start to complain, and now you're behind the ball by years and you can't provide any solutions. So in this case, I would put a search ring out, and it would be about a half a mile in radius, and it was centered to the west by about a quarter mile, and that search ring went out, and this is the only potentially buildable solution that came back to me in AT&T, and so therefore I said we would commit to this build.
And so that's the pink dot we're talking about.
That's correct.
And how far is the Silver Panther Lane site from the lazy recreation park that?
Everyone, I'm so sorry. So in these proceedings, this is a big room, but I need to focus all my attention on the speaker, and I promise you when it is your opportunity to be at the podium, I will give you all of my attention as well, but I need to be able to hear. So if you could please keep comments to a minimum, or if you need to exit the room, that's perfectly fine too. Thank you.
What is the distance between Silver Panther and the Lazy Susan? Or Lazy?
It's about 2.2 to 2.3 miles. And worth noting is the tower there on Lazy Days. When we were able to get on it, the only height left that we could get as high on was 113 feet. So the coverage range from that one is much less than the neighbors at 200 feet. And even at 200 feet, the ones are not going to reach down into the area that we're trying to target. That's why we put a new search ring out in that area.
So when you did this assessment in June of 2025, what did you note about the system improvements that could or could not be done on your existing sites to meet the coverage needs?
Well, there's nothing more than we can push on the existing sites because we're fixed at the elevation. We're running as much power on the radios that they can produce, and we're running the full bandwidth of our spectrum that we have in our allocation.
So to mitigate against the concern about a proliferation of these kinds of towers, because that is in our code, is that something that's considered when you're doing a geographic search ring to identify where you're going to get the largest expansive coverage so that we're not coming back and asking for additional towers given the growth that you discussed, for example? If you're trying to anticipate that, how do you accommodate?
I mean, one of the things that you'll notice is the towers, the perimeter towers are here. You'll probably see that every one of the carrier operators are on them. We all operate with the same equipment from the same vendors, and pretty much now almost have the same network topology. So we're all tending to look to build in the same area. And so, you know, when we put out a search ring, we put it out in a fairly large footprint, not because we really want to be far off our center. We want to be on our center, but we also know that likelihood of getting something there is not good. So we put out a fairly wide search ring. And of course, we all as a carrier operator in the business, whether it's AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, we're all interested in co-locating on something that exists more than we are anything else, because anything else takes years to happen, where a co-location, we tend to have big carrier aggregators out there like American Tower and Crown. They pretty much own the bulk of the towers. So we have master lease agreements, and those are the sites we can move on the fastest. So it's kind of like when I put a search ring out, I expect that anything that's buildable or that is already built is going to come back. And then I look at all of them and I see which one's the best fit. In this case, nothing came back except for this one proposed build.
And as you can see from the date of this assessment, which is over a year ago, it takes us a very long time to do all of the due diligence that we need to do. We probably do more due diligence for our special exception applications than the typical special exception application. And then we get it submitted, and then we go through reviews. So the tower development is a minimum 18-month, sometimes 2.5-year process for us.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did you have any other questions for Mr. Brousseau?
Not at this time.
Okay. So let's go on to the photo sim. Let's put that in the record. Cell towers generate de minimis levels of traffic. We don't need water or sewer. They're unmanned facilities. They don't make noise. Their only impact, truly, is visual. And we have submitted this photo simulation to demonstrate that this one has a very minimal visual impact to the community. So the photo sim is lined up here with the master map on the left-hand side showing where the photos have been taken, and then the balloon shot on the right with the balloon noted. So this is photo number 1. It's on Mulholland Drive looking northwest, and at the bottom there you can also see how far this shot is from the proposed tower location. So this is southeast of the subject property on Mulholland Drive, PS1, and this is the balloon on the right, just above the tree line there. So let's move on to the next one. And again, this is a 149-foot pole. It's relatively short to us. This is photo sim number 2. And again, this is also from Mulholland Drive looking northwest. We've superimposed the tower, used the balloon photo and superimposed the tower. So there's the balloon, there's the tower.
Are the towers constructed with the 4 antenna already there, or are those added as co-locations occur?
Those are added as co-locations occur. So Vertex is the tower builder. They're the vertical real estate developer. They will build the tower first, fully permit it, fully construct it, get a CO, and then AT&T will come on and get their permit to put the antennas on. And then we've shown the photo sim with all 4 carriers because that is the maximum loading on the tower. It's probably unlikely, Alan, that we will ever have 4 carriers on it.
Right now,
Oh,
may I speak
You
here?
can say
Yeah.
your name for the record.
Alan Ruiz with Vertex Development. So right now, the market only has 3 carriers. The 4th was Dish, but Dish has declared bankruptcy and they're not going to be around. Their spectrum has been sold. So unless something miraculous happens, we'll probably only have 3 moving forward.
And not necessarily at the outset, it would be as
again, as carrier budgets and projects allow. But again, AT&T is the anchor tenant. If T-Mobile or Verizon come in and want a new site in this area, they would have to demonstrate that they can't use this one before they could get another tower built anywhere near it. And again, as Mr. Brousseau just told you, the cheapest, fastest way to get on air for a carrier is to hang antenna on an existing tower. So that's the path of least resistance. If you build it, they will come. Can't tell you when. Alan hopes it's sooner rather than later. Next slide. This is photo sim number 3. This is Silver Panther Lane and Mulholland Drive back to the southwest. Looking northeast, we're 968 feet away. There's the balloon. Let's go back and see the balloon. There's the balloon, and there's the superimposed tower. Again, not much visibility there. There's a lot of tree cover out in this area. It's a rural part of your county. Okay, now we go number 5. Did we skip 4? 2 and 4?
Yes. Well, 4
5.
is-
Okay. Number 5. This is Silver Panther Lane, looking northeast. We're 2,577 feet away. Southeast, I said northeast, that couldn't be right. The balloon's not visible, no visibility from that location. That's, you see that in the map on the left, it's up at the top, over to the left side, looking back down, balloon not visible. Same thing with number 6, that's up north on Wildcat Drive and Tina's Lane. We're looking southwest, over 3,000 feet away, no visibility. Now we're at Wildcat Drive looking southwest, 1,700 feet away, again, no visibility. Number 8, Grand Chenier Road and Wildcat Drive looking west, 2,350 feet away, balloon not visible. That is all the way over to the east. 9 is Mulholland Drive and Silver Panther Lane looking north, 630 feet. This is pretty much due south of the subject property, and the balloon is, you can see it up there hiding sort of in that tree through the power lines, and then here's our superimposed tower. Now we're going to 11. This is Silver Panther Lane looking southeast, 1,460 feet, no visibility. Okay, we put that in. So I'm going to go through the comp plan policies. I told you at the beginning that because we're in that groundwater resource area, there are some additional comp plan policies that apply to the property. And there are 4 of them. Your staff, the county staff, has determined that the project is consistent with all 4 of those, but I'm going to walk you through them. This is LEAP Plan Policies 1.4.5 and 33.1.7, and both of these apply due to the Density Reduction Groundwater Resource FLU designation. These policies require that proposed development must not adversely affect surface and groundwater levels. Vertex submitted a groundwater modeling study demonstrating no adverse impacts. Ms. Frost is handing you a summary of that modeling study. The staff did the same thing, used a summary. The actual study itself is over 5,000 pages, which is why you're getting it on a thumb drive. We are talking about environmental impacts here, so we did not print 5,000 pages for you. And staff determined, and the study demonstrated no impacts to surface or groundwater levels, and your staff has determined that the proposed tower is consistent with those 2 policies implicated by that future land use designation. Next slide. Policy 5.1.5, this serves to protect existing and future residential areas from encroachment of uses potentially destructive to the character and integrity of the residential development. Again, this is an agricultural area with ag zoning, which is not considered a residential area, but this policy was deemed to apply to the property and needed to be evaluated. The photo simulation demonstrates very little visual impact, and our groundwater modeling study demonstrates no surface or groundwater impacts, and your staff determined that because of that evidence that we submitted, the proposed tower is consistent with this policy.
Okay, for 1 second then. So really when we're looking at this policy, what we're talking about is more of the ground level impact, so noise and visual impact from that. So if we could go back, you don't have to on yours, but on the setback aerial, that was one thing I had questions about, and I appreciate the larger versions in the enlargement. It was difficult to see on the smaller type of what I had. So it looks to me as if the closest lot line that you are near is 129 feet, just under 130. So is there any expectation from ground level that there is going to be a visual impact to the adjacent residents?
The tower is actually 150 feet. The 129
I'm
is,
talking about, I'm not talking about the height of it. I'm talking about if you're standing on your ground, you show the landscape plan, for example, the 15-foot buffer, that's meant to be shielding, obviously not at its full capacity. Right. You're just talking ground level. So
there is an 8-foot fence around the compound that's required, an opaque fence required by the code with the 15-foot landscape buffer. And the compound, you're correct, the compound is 129.8 feet from the closest property to the west, and we anticipate that fencing, along with the required landscaping that grows up, shields any ground level view of the equipment from the neighboring property owner. And Oh, yeah, and there's existing vegetation on that subject property, and the house on that property is much further down, closer to Mulholland Drive. The home on that, I think those are outbuildings.
On the west?
Yes.
In the north. It appeared, again, it's hard to tell because of all the vegetation exactly where residences are relative to this, so that's why I'm asking the questions of what the actual on-the-ground impacts would be to the residents, separate from the visual impact of the full capacity of the.
We can go back to the very first aerial. That might help you. No, it didn't, too far out.
Yeah, and this is on the property.
I'm sorry, I don't have one that would help you. I suspect
And the
this,
site.
This is, I mean, this and the landscape plan in tandem, I can get a sense of it. The question's really more about what are the actual off-site impacts to the immediately adjacent residents. When we're looking at 5.1.5, that's typically why staff evaluates that. It's not necessarily the host property of this, it's the residential uses that are adjoining it, even though it is an agricultural district, as you
Right.
said. So noise is one that comes up a lot too. So if you've got 4 co-located, are you gonna be varying the generator testing so that that noise isn't occurring all at the same time? It goes to those kinds of questions.
do you want to talk about generator testing?
Yeah, once again, Alan Ruiz, Vertex Development. Generators are typically tested once a quarter per carrier. There's really no way for us to regulate when they test their generators, but their generators are on for typically 10 to 15 minutes during the testing process.
During the day, during a weekday?
And as you said before, it's not a manned facility in any way. So traffic-wise, you're only looking at that maintenance schedule being one person maybe driving out to the site to conduct that testing?
Correct. At maximum, carriers, when you consider how many sites they have and their limited resources, human resources, at maximum for their high-capacity sites, they may visit that site once a month. But typically in a more rural area like this, it's once a quarter.
Thank you.
And that is in a light-duty vehicle. It's not,
Correct. That's typically in a F-150 type pickup truck or a utility van or something like that.
Thank you.
okay, we have one more policy, I think. 123.10.5. This says that the county will continue to permit communications towers higher than 100 feet only by special exception. That's why we're here. And also in that policy is that the impact on wood storks must be considered. The proposed tower is higher than 100 feet, so that's why we're here today. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has determined that monopole towers under 200 feet are not likely to adversely affect wood storks, and this is under 200 feet, and the proposed tower, the staff has determined that it's consistent with this plan policy. Okay, the last issue that we want to talk about in our direct is property values impact, and I'm going to call up David Talby. Thank you. And you can, he has this, I've got qualifications and a report. So you want to, let's get those marked.
While I'm doing that, I'm going to go through just for the court reporters and your record keeping as well. So I believe the last one that we spoke about on the record was number 9, which was the composite agency letters. Since then, I have accepted number 10, applicant exhibit 10, which is the existing tower map. Applicant exhibit 11 was the resume for the engineer. Applicant exhibit 12 was the AT&T map with the distances of the towers. Number 13 was your photo sims. Number 14 was the groundwater modeling, and now number 15 will be the resume from Mr. Talby, and then 16 will be his study. And I do not have this study otherwise in my record, is that correct?
Correct.
Just give me one moment to make sure we keep this aligned.
Name, address. You know the drill.
Okay, you may proceed, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, David Talby. I'm a member of the Appraisal Institute, licensed real estate appraiser, state of Florida. I'm president and treasurer of Lee Powerty, Inc., 609 East Jackson Street, Tampa, 33602, and I've been sworn.
Mr. Talby, can you just talk a little bit about your experience and your qualifications?
Sure. I've been appraising real estate for 35 plus years, and I got into the tower study that you've got in front of you. I started working on this model for about 25 years ago.
Okay. Have you ever been qualified as an expert witness on real estate valuation issues?
Yes,
And have you ever been qualified as an expert in a proceeding like this?
yes.
I'm going to tender him as an expert.
Yes, thank you.
What did we ask you to do?
Well, you asked me to, what you said there, you commissioned me to prepare a impact study, a tower impact study, which basically boils down to studying real estate transactions that are proximate to cellular communication towers. I've studied monopole towers like proposed today. I've studied lattice towers, and I've studied stealth towers in the form of crosses, trees, and so forth.
Okay.
So I've been studying this issue now, I told you, for 25 plus years. It's a very comprehensive report that you have in front of you. It expands from up in the Panhandle, Leon County, all the way down south to Collier County and Naples, and over east all the way over to St. Johns County, Orange County, Seminole County. So I've studied all these different market areas.
Do you have an opinion as to whether this proposed tower will have an impact on property values in the vicinity of the tower?
No, based on all the evidence and all my experience in dealing with this issue and the study in front of you, there's no indication that this tower is going to have any impact on any surrounding property values.
And can you just talk a little bit more about some of the data that you've reviewed and some of the contacts that you've made to undergird that opinion?
Right. So I have studied, like I said, I've studied hundreds and hundreds of towers, and with it, hundreds and hundreds of sales that are proximate towers. And I studied these sales relative to sales that were maybe similar but off and not in proximity to a tower, sort of a match pairs comparison that you have in front of you. And I've been doing it for a number of years, and I supplement all of that data by speaking with the county property appraisers. And I spoke to the Lee County property appraiser, Tammy Doodle here in Lee County, and I don't know, 25 or 30 of the property appraisers, county property appraisers I've interviewed across the state of Florida, not one county property appraiser has ever made a reduction in an assessment, a property assessment, due to proximity to a tower. Nor, and I can say this without a doubt, to their knowledge has a property owner or resident ever applied to have a reduction in their assessment due to proximity to a tower. And let me continue forward with that. The property appraiser offices deal with macro data just like I do. If there's no data to support it, they just can't do it. Now they will make an adjustment for things like sewer treatment plants. They've made reductions for things like that, impacts like that.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Talby?
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
This concludes our direct presentation. I'll wrap up in rebuttal. I'll go through the special exception criteria and explain how we meet all of that, but I'll do that at the end.
Okay.
So do you have any questions for me or any members of our team at this point?
I'll hold them until after I hear from the staff, because the questions that I had were largely answered in the written materials and what you've provided this morning.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Do you want to take a break? Okay, whenever you're ready.
Before I get started, I'd like to provide a copy of staff presentation as well as a letter from a concerned neighbor of the area to put on the record.
Okay, thank you. So staff exhibit, as I said, staff exhibit 1 was the staff report. Staff exhibit 2 was your 48-hour letter that was received by my office. Now I've got staff exhibit 3 as the presentation. And staff 4 will be a letter of objection from, is this a neighboring resident
Yes.
to the site? Okay, thank you.
Good Good morning. For the record, my name is Brianna Schrader. I'm a planner with the zoning section of community development. I have been previously qualified as an expert witness in the Lee County Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan and wish to do so again today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. What I have presented here today is SEZ2025-00021, which is a special exception request by Vertex Development on behalf of the applicant to construct a wireless communication facility in the agricultural zoning district pursuant to sections 34-653 and 34-1447 of the Lee County Land Development Code. The facility would consist of a monopole antenna supporting structure with an overall height of 149 feet, inclusive of a 4-foot lightning rod, located within a leased compound that is approximately 6,400 square feet in size. The site is located at 22751 Mulholland Drive and is approximately 10 acres in area and is located approximately 2 miles south of State Road 82 and 2 miles north of Corkscrew Road. On August 7th, 2017, the parent parcel was created via a lot split, which split a 20-acre parcel through a deed recorded with the Lee County property appraiser, resulting in the creation of the parent parcel and the neighboring property located to the west of the subject property with the address 17325 Silver Panther Lane. Following this, a residential mobile home permit was applied for, issued, and received a certificate of occupancy to tie down a residential mobile home on the parent parcel. In its current configuration, the parent parcel has a lot depth of 733 feet and a lot width of 594 feet. The subject property is also in the southeast Lee County Community Plan area. As previously mentioned, the subject property is zoned agricultural, specifically Ag 2, and is located in the density reduction, groundwater resource, future land use category in accordance with the LEAD plan. The areas surrounding the parent parcel are primarily within the agricultural zoning district and are located within the density reduction, groundwater resource, and wetlands, future land use categories. This area is also within the southeast Lee County Community Plan area. Much of the area is developed for low-density residential use, with areas that are also undeveloped. Parcels located a mile north, east, and south of the subject property are zoned mixed-use plan development known as Kingston. This mixed-use plan development is approximately 7,850 acres in size, as amended through administrative actions and permits, residential dwelling units, including assisted living facilities and continued care facilities of up to 10,000 units, and 700,000 square feet of commercial floor area. There is currently a development order issued to construct a 4-lane roadway with supporting infrastructure. Wireless communication facilities are subject to both local and land use regulations and federal and state statutory limitations governing the placement of personal wireless service infrastructure. The state of Florida establishes guidelines for local governments when reviewing applications for the placement, construction, modification, or co-location of wireless communication facilities. The Lee County Land Development Code has supplementary requirements established in Chapter 34 for wireless communication facilities, and while local governments may enforce zoning regulations related to aesthetics, landscaping, land use, structural design, and setbacks, those regulations must not be more restrictive and create restrictions that limit construction of a wireless communication facility. So the information provided here is what's provided in the staff report and what was provided to staff at the time of review. Staff won't go too much into an analysis on this because the applicant did a great job on it and the questions were answered throughout that presentation. But let's see, overall, the placement of the proposed wireless communication facility is not unreasonable and is feasible within the agricultural zoning district.
So the staff did go through a review of the hierarchy to determine that even though this is agricultural, there was nothing of a greater,
That is correct.
more intense zoning classification within the geographic search ring.
That is correct. The applicant has provided photo simulations as provided in the applicant's presentation, and provided here is not everything that was provided in the staff report, but staff wanted to show just the three main locations of where the tower would be visible. So with this, the applicant does meet LDC section 34-1446. Land Development Code section 34-145 establishes the review criteria for special exception requests. The following slides provide how the applicant has met the review criteria. The applicant also did go through Lead Plan Policy 1.4.5, and staff would like to put on the record that while LDC section 34-1444B4 prohibits wireless communication facilities in the density reduction groundwater resource future land use area, it exempts antenna supporting structures, which is what is proposed by this special exception request. The applicant has provided an integrated surface and groundwater model demonstrating that the proposed development will maintain surface and groundwater levels at their historic levels, and that the proposed development will not adversely impact properties upstream, downstream, or adjacent to the subject property, which is consistent with this Lead Plan policy. Goal 33 of the Lead Plan aims to protect Southeast Lee County's natural resources through public and private acquisition and restoration efforts. Development incentives will be utilized as a mechanism to preserve, enhance, and protect natural resources, such as regional flowways and natural habitat corridors, and the development of privately owned land. Allowable uses must also be compatible to ensure protection of the Southeast Lee County's environment. Policy 33.1.7 of the Lead Plan protects and analyzes the impacts of proposed land disturbances on surface and groundwater resources, and establishes that the Lee County Division of Natural Resources will determine if the appropriate model or models are being utilized, and assesses the design and outputs of the modeling to ensure protection of Lee County's natural resources. As previously mentioned, the applicant has provided an integrated surface and groundwater model demonstrating that the proposed development will maintain surface and groundwater levels at their historic levels. The model demonstrates that the proposed development will not adversely impact properties upstream, downstream, or adjacent to the subject property. A wireless communication facility is used for the transmission and reception of wireless communications, which generally include equipment and ancillary equipment. With the request being for an antenna supporting structure, it is permissible through a special exception. Lead Plan Policy 5.1.5 serves to protect existing and future residential areas from encroachment of uses potentially destructive to the character and integrity of the residential environment. In addition to what was previously mentioned, the proposed use will not have any adverse effects on the surrounding area and will enhance the safety of the area for existing and future residents of the community by providing another source for emergency communications, and is consistent with this Lead Plan policy. The applicant did go into Lead Plan Policy 123.10.5, and staff does agree with the applicant's testimony. Environmental and Natural Resources staff have determined the request will not impact environmentally critical and sensitive areas. As previously mentioned, the project is consistent with Lead Plan Policy 123.10.5, and impacts of proposed land disturbances on surface and groundwater resources will be analyzed using integrated surface and groundwater models that utilize site-specific data to assess potential adverse impacts on water resources and natural systems within Southeast Lee County. Environmental staff establishes that the proposed wireless communication facility will not be required to provide open space or indigenous open space as set forth in LDC sections 10-415 and 34-1447. The applicant is demonstrating compliance with LDC section 10-420, which establishes the plant specifications and plant material standards. Additionally, properties to the east and west are developed for residential use, and the applicant will be providing a 15-foot landscape buffer along the entire perimeter of the 8-foot fence required pursuant to LDC section 34-1447. The applicant is also complying with LDC Section 34-1447, which establishes the required tree and shrub planting standards while also utilizing 3 existing pine trees to meet this requirement. The applicant has provided the document of authority accepting responsibility for compliance with all applicable Lee County regulations pertaining to the use, including the zoning, development order, and permitting for any specific conditions of approval that may be imposed upon the placement of the wireless communications facility. The applicant has provided a landscape plan and a site plan which demonstrates compliance with the regulations for wireless communication facilities established in LDC Sections 34-1447 and 10-420. The placement of the proposed wireless communications facility within the agricultural zoning district will not be unreasonable and is feasible and meets LDC Section 34-1447, which results in there being no variances being proposed with this request, and the necessary approval processes will ensure full compliance with applicable regulations. As previously discussed in this presentation, approval of this request, as conditioned, will be compatible with existing and planned uses and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or detrimental to the public welfare. As previously discussed in this presentation, the applicant has provided to staff that they are not able to use an existing wireless communication facility in the geographic area, as there are none available located within the search area. The applicant has provided a shared use plan as required pursuant to LDC Section 34-1449, which states that the applicant has agreed to rent or lease available space on the antenna supporting structure under the terms of a fair market lease without discrimination against other wireless communication providers.
The reflection of the 2.3 miles, that's to the one on the map that we were talking about earlier, the closest that they were not, it appears, utilizing prior to June 2025, but now are. So staff evaluated that as well.
Staff did not evaluate what was recently brought up about that new tower, but
The
isn't
2.3 miles, I think this shows 5.6, 5.5, and 5.4. So I'm assuming 2.3, and I can get clarification on that, but I'm
Yes.
assuming that's where staff derived the 2.3 miles.
Yes, that is the tower that Mr. Brousseau testified they're now using. And I'm sorry, we just found out yesterday that AT&T had co-located on that tower. So that was news to us. I'm sorry I didn't share that with you sooner.
Does that change any of the analysis is really the point of my question. If that's within, so, and I need clarification on this now then. So 2.3, what was that referring to? Because that is not reflected on this exhibit.
The existing our existing towers map shows that tower that's directly north of the subject site. Yes. The one that says SBA MPS 1276729, that's the one that's 2.3 miles away.
Is that
That now, no, it's not, because we did that in June of 2025. So it's not showing, Mr. Brousseau analyzed his existing structures. And that tower, it's on there in the blue cross.
correct? So that is the 2.3 miles
Yes.
that staff is talking about.
Yes.
So staff did evaluate within the 2.3 miles, even though the testimony was that you only learned about this yesterday. It's in the staff presentation that you did review that tower within 2.3. So that would not change any of the findings that I have.
No.
Okay. That there is not, it goes to the finding that there is not a tower within the geographic search ring that would provide the same level of service.
It really underscores that they're two separate search areas. They serve two separate needs. So it doesn't meet the needs to the south.
So staff's review of it did include the tower that we've been talking about today, that is the most proximate at 2.3 miles.
Staff is talking about the 2 towers that are currently, that was presented during review, those 2 towers along, I think it's State Road 82, but did not include the newly mentioned tower today. But, huh? That is
The one
it?
directly north is the,
My apologies. Then
Yes.
That's where I want to
Yes,
get that
yes,
clarified on the
yes.
record. So that has been, because just to orient, and it's not really shown. So you're showing on the upper northwest corner, there's the hint of a red line.
Yeah.
That's right there. That I
That's-
believe is this, which is
Yes,
5.4. Okay. And then
This is the blue cross,
yes.
and this is the one to the east.
Okay. And and the Blue Cross is 2.3. So that
Yes.
is what staff reviewed and determined in your findings. Okay. Thank you for those clarifications.
My apologies. So approval of the request as conditioned is consistent with the criteria and will not impact surrounding land uses and natural man-made resources. The applicant has agreed to all reasonable measures to mitigate potential adverse impacts of the structure and facilities, including optimal separation from residential land uses, monopole design, and code-required landscaping. So to conclude today's presentation, as analyzed, the siting of the antenna supporting structure on the subject lease area complies with the standards established for approval of a special exception set forth in LDC section 34-145. Provided on the screen is the proposed conditions by staff. Staff recommends approval of the request and is available for any questions should you have any.
I'm going back through my notes. I believe that we've addressed things as we went through. Did applicant have any questions on cross-examination of the staff?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then with that, we will take a brief break before we begin the public input. So let's take a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 10:10.
named after us.
Okay, we're
That's
back
cool.
on the record. We're going to begin now with public testimony. So as I said, I'm going to call the cards in the order that I have them. As I also mentioned, when you come forward, please know that that's your one opportunity to speak, so please make the most of that time. I'd like to hear everything that you have to say on this file. If you could state your name and then briefly indicate, you don't have to provide your exact address, but just generally where you reside proximate to the tower, that would be helpful for our comments as well. So the first card that I have is for Samantha Hawksley. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. These exhibits will be labeled with your last name, just as a public exhibit. So this will be Hawksley? Yes, Hawksley 1 is a composite. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Hawksley. I live at 17680 Wildcat Drive, a few properties away from the proposed project site. I stand before you today to formally request the denial of the proposed Rancho Vida Tower based on clear statutory, technical, and environmental failures. First, this application faces an impossible hurdle under Lee County Land Development Code Section 34-1444, found in Ordinance 11-08. This property sits inside the protected DRGR groundwater resource area where wireless facilities are expressly prohibited. The Board of County Commissioners explicitly crossed out and removed the historical exemption for stealth infrastructure. By deleting that loophole, the county has banned new ground-mounted towers in this aquifer recharge zone, whether stealth or otherwise. Furthermore, Vertex proposal includes zero structural camouflage, meaning that this massive industrial build lacks even the basic aesthetic considerations historically required for sensitive rural areas. Second, because of this baseline prohibition, the applicant must meet strict zoning priority design standards under Section 34-1447. The code dictates that before an applicant can build a new tower in low priority zone, like DRGR, they must adequately demonstrate that higher ranked districts are unfeasible. State Route 82 is lined with high priority C2 commercial zoning, and the adjacent Kingston development features 700,000 square feet of commercial space. Vertex has completely failed to meet the statutory burden of proof. Third, official FDEP mapping indicates wetlands on the northeast portion of this site, given in the paper that I gave you. Yet, this file lacks a formal state wetlands determination under Chapter 62-340 FAC. You cannot legally evaluate structural fall zones or environmental buffers or undelineated wetlands. Fourth, as noted, telecommunication infrastructure intended to service Kingston belongs inside Kingston's high priority commercial footprint, not externalized onto our agricultural community. Fifth, the applicant cannot hide behind a utility infrastructure defense to bypass Lee County Plan Policy 33.2.5. This policy explicitly dictates that commercial uses are only permitted if incorporated into specific communities on map D-2, which this property is not. And the 300,000 square foot commercial cap has already been exceeded. 6. Public regulatory records from the FCC National Broadband Map officially designate this immediate residence vicinity already possesses 100% cellular coverage across major carriers. Because the federal government's own data confirms our area is already fully serviced, the applicant cannot legally claim a significant gap in service exists under the Federal Telecommunications Act. This tower represents a commercial preference for corporate profit maximization and not a public utility necessity.
A search ring arbitrary established by a for-profit stakeholder cannot be used as a justification for a public utility need. This is a clear conflict of interest. Seventh, introducing a 2,500 square foot heavy-duty industrial compound complete with our massive concrete footings and private commercial machinery directly threatens our groundwater. A generic hydraulic report cannot override the risk of placing an industrial utility site over our community's primary drinking water source. Finally, placing an uncamouflaged 149-foot steel tower loaded with 4 separate corporate carrier arrays creates a permanent visual blight that completely destroys our local agricultural viewshed. On a deeply personal level, this industrial intrusion directly impacts my family. We invested in our home here specifically for the open skies and quiet rural environment, the safe agricultural setting that Lee County zoning explicitly proposed to protect. Putting a massive industrial facility directly next to where my family lives devalues our property, puts the health of the community and our livestock at risk, and robs us of the peaceful enjoyment of our home. I respectfully urge you to enforce our community ordinances and deny this application. Thank you.
Okay, the next card I have is for Virginia Kipp. Is Virginia Kipp here? Good morning.
Morning. My name is Virginia Kipp. I have owned land on Mulholland Drive for over 25 years. My next door neighbor and I own all of the land front on the frontage on Mulholland Drive. That's only 2 properties. Mulholland Drive is a lane. It is barely a car wide. It is a old country road, 1,500 feet long. And you're talking about building a tower at the very back corner of it, on the front of the property. And they're making it sound like it's in the middle of nowhere. Look at us. It is not in the middle of nowhere. I bought that property to leave to my kids. And the tax basis may not go down, but the property value will. I can tell you that they are, if you try to sell that property now, Google will tell you you can lose up to 20% of your property value if you're within sight of a cell phone tower. This thing is not going to be just a tower. It's 14 stories high. 14 stories high. There aren't that many buildings in Lee County that are 14 stories high. And let's be honest. The real people who are going to profit from this are the cell phone companies who are selling to new customers in the developments of Kingston and the one over that's going to be built on the property that was Alico on the other side of our little community. We all, like she said, and she did it beautifully, we bought to be out in the country. And this is, if they want a cell phone tower, put it on their property, not ours. We have coverage. If 80% of the cell phone, the police calls are on the cell phones, that shows we have coverage. We don't need the coverage. We are sacrificing our views and our property values so that the new people can advertise, we've got great cell phone and wireless for you. Please don't let them do it to us. Put it in the middle of their Cypress Head or anywhere else, but let them take it, not us. They gave us, I received my letter about this meeting 9 days ago. It was just before 4th of July weekend. We didn't have time to prepare. I mean, if they've known about this for years, why haven't they been sending us letters all along? That's right. They wanted to wait until it was the 11th hour. And here we are. We, you know, and you can see how many people turned out anyway. So you can imagine how many people would have come if we had had time to locate the people who all live in this area, because there are a lot of us. I don't have a house on my property yet, but I love my property. I've worked on it for 25 years, getting rid of the exotic plants, all the melaleuca, everything. And I'm very concerned. The other thing no one has mentioned is the roads. How are the people going to get in to bring their trucks in to deliver this equipment? Silver Panther is unpassable. I mean, you cannot drive on it during the wet season in certain places. Not unless you have a four-wheel vehicle and it's a 4x4, maybe a truck, but not a big truck. I have trouble getting people to get a cattle lease because they can't bring their cattle trailers down it. So please, let them have the tower somewhere else. Not in our little piece of paradise. Please.
The next card I have is for Samantha Johnson. Sure, I can move you to the end. Jeff Fiend.
I'm not speaking.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next card is for Tisha Stourart.
Poured out, it's okay.
Okay, I apologize. Did you
I will
want-
not be speaking.
Not
Thank you.
speaking? Okay. I have Rachel and Sean Stanis. I apologize on this one completely.
You've got good last names.
I'm very bad notoriously at names, and I apologize to everyone. I apologize for that.
How you doing? I'm Sean Stanislawski. It's my wife, Rachel Stanislawski. We live at 22861 Mulholland Drive. That is right here next to the proposed site. We live there with our 5 kids. We bought out there to, be in the middle of the woods, be in the middle of a rural area. To have this tower come up, they're saying that they're going to have a buffer around it to possibly lower the impact of seeing it. You can notice that around this area, it's open. There's not very many coverage around here. This is my home right here. Looking straight across it, I'll be able to see that no matter what. Coming into the property on the proposed photo 1A that they have, that was my front gate from seeing the balloon. Also, when I step out onto my front porch, I have multiple pictures and videos of the balloon being straight across into this area.
We did send that picture to
Not
her.
over here in the corner. So whatever pictures that they have of the balloon being up here, I don't think that is correct. Stepping out on my front porch and seeing that is not the proposed location that they had for flying the balloon. If you guys are going to put a buffer, or if you're going to put trees around there, to do the fence line, there are gopher tortoises on this property.
A ton of them. I mean,
I don't know exactly how many throughout the whole property, but me even being on my property line and walking up and down and looking at their property, I can see multiple gopher tortoises on the property line. Nothing was brought up about that.
the road is.
Yeah,
you
like someone
can't
else
get
said,
through
it was
the
a
road.
single lane road. There's going to be cranes. There's going to be heavy construction vehicles coming in and out of Silver Panther, Tina's, and Wildcat. This is a privately maintained road. We maintain these roads privately. Myself and along with others have donated towards this road because no one else helps us, and we're the ones that maintain it. Nothing was said to maintain the roads from them or possibly what they could be doing.
As bad as our roads are.
Yeah.
I actually, our roads are so bad that I switched from an old vehicle from my in-laws who live right down the road to not put the wear and tear on my vehicle. That's how bad our roads are like this. So for them to bring in these cranes.
And then not have anything to fix them or proposed what they could do to help with that. that is an issue as well.
The noise being so close, like I said, I don't know, were you able to get that picture? Because I can show it to you. The noise, my bedroom is where this line is right here. And this tower shows right here. I have the balloon, they put it up and down, up and down, up and down. It is not back here where they're showing, so I think that needs to be,
Relooked at.
relooked at 100%, because as soon as I walk out my beautiful piece of property, I look here and there's a tower, and these people don't have to deal with it. I bought here for peace and quiet.
It'll ruin the skylight or the skyline. You know, I'm not going to be able to.
This is my bedroom window. That's the balloon. You can't tell me that that's in the back of that property. And I watched that balloon go up for 5 days, 4 days, up and down, up and down. So that's just, you know, and I did send that picture to her so you guys can have that, because I definitely think that needs to be reevaluated, and I don't think that it's fair.
And there's just not enough around the area to conceal this tower. The buffering that they're going to put, I'll see that. I mean, there is pine trees, but there is a lot of saw palmetto berry bushes that they don't grow tall. They're low to the ground and they spread out. But as far as the pine trees, you know, they're not very big. You can see right through them. The pine trees sit anywhere from 40 to 60, 70, give or take, feet in the air for the tree line. That's 149 feet in the air. That's going to be well above our tree line. It's going to be seen from many properties around.
Yeah, they're giving the views of what they want us to see. I'm not trying to say, but if you guys went out there and saw, it's way different than what you're seeing here. These people probably have it.
For the court
Well, I'm-
reporters.
okay. No, I'm just saying.
Typically, we don't allow to.
No.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
That's okay, but if just for our.
I just want to ask them, if you guys been out there yourself? Have you drove down that road? Are you just showing us presenting? Have any of you went out there? Because this is just so. Explain the road. You know, the road is.
I'm sorry, you have
you
to address
can't-
the question.
okay. So I'm just. Yeah, just explaining the road. You know.
I'm making notes, and then when we come back to the applicant, they have to do rebuttal,
Okay.
and that's when we'll address the
Okay.
questions.
And yeah, I
That's
think
pretty
that
much
pretty
it.
much wraps it up. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
coming today. The next card I have is from Maria Collins.
Our son is Robert's going to speak in her behalf.
Okay. That was the next card, Robert Collins. Good morning.
Good morning. So my name is Robert Collins. I inherited the property at 22800 Mulholland Drive. And one day I do hope to build a home there, raise my family, and eventually pass it down to my children as it was with me. Like many families here, our property isn't just land, it's our future. It's years of hard work that all of us have sacrificed for a couple of minutes where it can just be gone like that within this meeting here today. The 149-foot cell tower, like Ms. Kipp said, it sounds nice for 149, but it is roughly about like a 14-foot story structure that's just going to be a complete eyesore and completely diminish all of our property value. The people here making the decision today are not the ones that will bear the financial consequences. The homeowners in this community will. The property owners will. The wildlife will. You know, it's the proposal benefits a billion-dollar company or billion-dollar companies that can sustain the loss of land value or whatever, but we can't. You know, we're just small folk. We're blue-collar people. We're just regular people out here that, like a lot of people said, purchase this land to be away from the hustle and bustle, to see, you know, the nice skylights, the stars and everything like that. That's the reason why we're out here. I mean, personally, there is gopher turtles. There is panthers that live in our area. I'm sure everyone's over there has seen a panther. You know, and it's very rare to see a panther. And, you know, with all this new construction that's coming on with Kingston, you know, all this wildlife it has to go somewhere, you know what I mean? So everything's gonna go over here. It's gonna be it's not fair for the wildlife, you know? I mean, this isn't just about like a cell tower. This is more protecting the investments that family have worked their entire lives to build and preserving our neighborhood. Our neighborhood isn't a playground for multi-billion-dollar companies to come in there and make money off of us, while we are the ones that take the financial burden. We're just small folk, man. We're not. We can't sustain the losses that these guys can stand. That road is, like they said, it's only a one-car lane road. That's going to be a humongous issue, getting all of that infrastructure in there for that, if this thing even goes up, which respectfully it should not. I mean, we do need more time to prepare for this. And like previously said with Kip, we've only had 9 days. These guys have years. You know, I would really love to see whenever the first permit or whenever their first proposal was, because that's whenever they started. 9 days. 9 days. We tried to call an attorney that they can't get out. They're like Sean and his family said, they sent the letters just right before 4th of July. The last moment that we could ever, you know, try to even come out over here. Like they said, you know, this is a small collection, you know, of our community. There's a lot of people that live over here. A lot of people that will be affected by this. Their families, future families. It's we do have service over there. It's not a matter of we don't have service or anything like that. I'll personally bring you over there and make phone calls to your office. I mean, we have service. You know, it's not necessary. It's not necessary at all. And I really want you to understand that from our perspective. You know, because we're small. We're trying to fight billion-dollar corporations over here, man. You know, it's a tough thing, and you only have 9 days. You know, that's nothing. I mean, personally, I would really like to request an extra meeting. You know, whenever we have an attorney that could review all of the statutes and everything like that, so we can at least have a chance to fight this. Right now, we don't. You know.
And unfortunately, I don't have the authority to grant something like that. The parties can request continuances, but the public cannot under Florida law. But everything that you've said is in the record, and we're taking notes, as we said, and we'll have the applicant and staff address it. But I will ask if the noticing requirements were met in this case.
Okay.
But that's the extent of jurisdiction that I have in that matter.
Well, that's real unfortunate. You know, I mean, like I said, we're small folk. We're trying to fight a billion-dollar company. It's a story of David and Goliath. It's not about cell phone tower. It's the story of David and Goliath over here. And I really would ask you to really consider our opinions and our points that we bring up. You know, this is a beautiful area. And I mean, I'm sure if you went out there, you know, I'm sure anyone over here will gladly take you over there and show you.
Conducted a site visit. The requirements under the administrative code are that I conduct a site visit on every case, so I did do that. I've driven out and I've seen it, so I'm familiar with everything everyone's saying about the roads.
I do appreciate that. I do. Let me see if I have any other points. I mean, I'll leave it off on this, but it's mainly about preserving our neighborhood and respecting the people who already call this community home. I mean, once this tower is built, there is no undo button. It's done. That's it. You know, there's nothing that we can do to take it back. And respectfully, I ask you to deny this proposal presented to require the applicant. Like I said, it's the burden of the homeowners that have everything. We have everything to lose. We have everything to lose and nothing to gain. This does not benefit us whatsoever. You know, and I'll leave it off at that.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The next card I have, and again, I apologize, it's Cheryl Bernokis.
I don't have anything to say right now.
Okay, thank you. Joshua Dextator. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Josh. Last name Doxator. I live approximately on this map. Probably, I would say, it's probably down there, Silver Panther.
Thank you.
Just past the lawn. I'm obviously here. I'm in a very huge objection to this proposed tower in many ways. I love my neighbors. There's nothing I wouldn't do. When the hurricane came, I was fixing up my house and just multiple things. I had a health issue, and we had 2 neighbors die because the Lee County Sheriff, the ambulance, no one could even make it to them. They had to wait, because there's a policy you got to do scene safe. They couldn't even make it down Wildcat. Okay, someone lost a mother. An old man was just driving down to try to evacuate, and he must have had anxiety or whatever, and he drove off into the ditch. He couldn't get out, and he drowned. Pretty much half of his truck he drowned him. He couldn't get out. This area is all underwater for at least 3 months of the year. On my land, it holds at least a whole foot of water. Okay, and what this man talks about generators, he's probably never even built a generator in his life, or probably even know how to use one. I mean, look at his, and he spoke about it, right? And he gave a testimony about generators.
We have to.
I know. I'm not talking to him. I'm talking.
Personal attacks,
Okay. Well, this man spoke on that behalf, and he made a statement that he knew about generators, and no one talked about a classification, or he was an expert professional about a generator. Well, I operate heavy machinery all the time, and I know out here in Sugar Sand, if there's about a foot of water, right, and then you get out an excavator or something, you walk away and you leave that idling, within minutes, that thing will sink. Within minutes. So you're telling me you're going to build a 150-foot tower with at least, how big is that pad that's going to be holding that? And then those generators are going to run continuously. So that thing will sink. It will sink. Will it sink this way? Will it sink this way? Right? So those are all very high, there's a structural thing. Also, the A&T expert, he said that that they failed to put in their survey properly, and then when they pulled up that picture and then they talked to you about it, they didn't show you the real dot. That real dot was in the middle of those other 2, and then oh no, this one, but there's actually 4 because they switched the side on you real quick. Go back. There's actually 4 because that one tower that they apparently just learned about 2 days ago, which they knew because that guy, the AT&T guy, worked for them, obviously, and they knew about that, They just claimed that they knew about it 2 days ago, and they couldn't put it in their study. Well, now, if the county went out and did their study, right, they did it with the old towers. That study's old. Now we have a new tower in the middle of all that wasn't put inside that study. That study has changed. Now we have to do a completely new study. It has to be completely new. The dynamics of that study has changed drastically because now they have something to handle that overload, right? And then they failed to do that. And the AT&T guy talked about, all he talked about was server load. He's talking about the towers that are there now are handling X amount of capacity. He did not say that there was a gap. They didn't prove that there was a gap anywhere in our area. And they failed to prove that and even put it in here or even show you guys that there is a gap and have a separate third party go out and actually identify that gap of coverage and say, look, all right, so I want you to do at least three different companies that go out and can prove that there's a gap there. So that way you have all three of them. So that way you can say, okay, this guy says, okay, maybe there's this gap's this small, and the next guy will say the gap's this big, and the next guy will say there is no gap. Well, then how the guy that found no gap, and then there's a guy that found a gap, and then there's a guy that didn't barely found one. You know, so but that's not even there. They didn't even show us that. And that's in chapter 34 of Lee County Code. Right? So, and then they also, according to the plans that they just presented, they put it up there in the corner, right? They violated the setback rule of County Code 0821 because it has to be at least the height of the tower or greater. And guess what? It's 120 from property line. So, and then also by federal law, when that thing falls, it cannot cross a property line by federal law. And where they have it proposed, if it falls that way, it's going to cross that property line. And now they're going to say, okay, the tower's 149 feet, but we're going to put a 10-foot antenna. So that means that thing, when that falls, it's actually, that threshold now has changed to 160 approximately. That it has to be set back from the property line. Right? Because nothing on that tower, anything down that tower, just because the tower is 149 and you put an extension on it, well, that extension is part of the tower. Just like if I got a prosthetic and put something on my hand, it's an extension of me. So that's also a violation of federal law. Okay? And is also compatible with our zoning, our code 08-21 in the Lee County Code. Okay? And and just give me 1 second, I have to read this because I lost my train of thought. On pursuant of Lee County Ordinance 0821, you must mandate the absolute maximum visual buffering, a fully opaque 10-foot security wall, a heavy wraparound landscape buffer using mature native trees to Florida to completely hide the ground equipment, and a requirement that the structure be a low impact stealth design to blend in with the sky, whether it be a tree or something, not just a mechanical tower. If you have to do that proof, I want you to hold them to the maximum. And that's just like the crux of it. Our road, I was on work comp at the time. I tore my LCL, and I had lots of benefits all accrued up. Well, I had to get an excavator. I had to get in machines. I had to get in my truck. I had to drive around. I was supposed to be going to the office. They found out. I put my retirement, I put my bonuses, I put on a good paying job, all on the line because of my neighbors. We couldn't even get it up and down the road. And I'll show you photos. I have at least $75,000 worth of accrued documentation that I can prove that we had put in that Wildcat Road and more. And that's at a discounted rate. Because I went around and I called and I negotiated and I told the man and everyone that I knew, I said, listen, we need help. I went around and I took the bull by the horns because we needed it. No one else, FEMA couldn't touch us. Lee County can't help us. It's a private road. A private road. We own the road and the house. We all own half of that road. So they have to go past us too. So technically, if they do any work on that road, we have to give them permission. because we own half of that road. The easement's inside there, but we own right to the middle of that dirt road. So then the other guy across the street from us owns the middle of the dirt road. So if you own both lots across from each other, you own the whole road that everyone has to pass on. So that's another thing, that the way the deed is written with the county, they never even said, hey, how are they gonna have safe? They're gonna have safe access from the front of the land, the applicant's property, right, to the tower. But how are they gonna get to the applicant, anyways, from using all our roads? They would have to do the whole entire road to make the whole entire access all the way to 82 safe for them to get their vehicles safely to that tower in an emergency need in hurricane time. Now I'm gonna tell you now, you already know that we had buildings that were up and past code and they were so engineered and everything, and Hurricane Ian came and wiped them out, took them right out. We made them to code and everything. Those things were gone. They wiped it right out. So you think a little 149-foot tall tower is going to sit there and take on Hurricane Ian? I bet you it won't. It will not. In the middle of our area, and then we're going to have at least 3 to 4 foot of groundwater. When you walk outside your house, you're going to have water up to your steps. As you open your door, you're going, whoa. You're going to take 2 steps, you're going to be automatically in water. I had to wear waders at a point. I had to wear my rain boots up to my knees just to even get out to the back to feed my horses, and I had to build stuff out in the back to prop up their land in the middle of this stuff. Because everything's changed from the development. And in our area now we're holding water when we never held it before, because no one ever took into consideration of the developments around us when they're developing it. And now we're becoming the new water spot. And we're holding even more water than we ever had ever. There's neighbors of mine that have been there 30 years. They said, whoa, the Kingston development came in. Now we got all the water everywhere. It doesn't drain right. It doesn't go anywhere. It sits for 4 months. 4 months. So you're going to tell me this thing's going to be sitting on soggy 3 to 3 foot. It's going to be under that pad. How tall is that pad going to be off the ground? Right? They're going to build a pad to build that on. So now you have to, so that tower is actually the pad plus the tower, because that pad is going to be supporting the tower, which makes the tower taller. So now the federal code says 140. Yeah, we built a 149-foot pole, but it's sitting on a 3 to 4 foot pad. So it's actually 152. Then you add the antenna in. Wow, that thing's 165. That doesn't meet any codes. And once you give them approval, they're going to build it and they're going to say sue us. And this lady, and they have a really good lawyer, and she won a lot. So, and that's the other. We feel like I know what you feel like. You feel you're pressured, and she wants you to deny. She really wants you to deny us, and deny that permit. She's going to file an emergency injunction of relief and take you to federal court. That's her next game plan. She's going to slap that thing down and go, boom, I'm going to force my hand right here, watch this. And then you guys are going to have to go to court and battle her in the middle of court, in federal court, not in state, not in city, not anyone you're going to know. You're going to federal court with her. So I ask you, to deny this outright. I lost all my benefits in doing that road. I got fired and everything. And I needed those benefits because I ended up having prostate cancer, and it got removed, and I'm clear. But at the time, I needed it, and I took a gamble. I said, my neighbors need safe, and I figured out a way I could help them. I might not be the greatest at operating machines, I might not be the greatest at that, but what I'm great at is I'm good at standing up and helping others. And I don't think this is adequate. I think it's excessive based off the material that they're presenting you. It's construed in their aspect and their perception. I want you to see past that. I want you to look at this at a different angle, not their angle. They're bringing in a guy that he's an engineer and he only spoke about server capacity. Why didn't he speak about the gap? Where's the gap? Like, they only showed you what they needed to show you to get you to get this approved, and that was it. And they were hoping that that 5,000 page study that they handed you ain't gonna be able to read them 5,000 pages, every single page, and you go over every single one and adequately understand that whole entire 5,000 page study. That's 5,000 pages. It was deliberate because they know you ain't gonna look at it. You're gonna go to the back page and look at the results. That's what they do. They hand you thousands of papers, and we only got 3 days to prove this, and that's what's happening. The time that we had, the time that the county had, is being rushed now. At very last minute, everything's getting rushed now, and wait, we forgot about this, and everything's gonna get rushed. And we're rushing. We need to halt, and we need to step back, and we need to reevaluate everything. And why can't they add capacity? Why can't they add better? Why the existing towers? Why can't they be built to hand up? Because they don't own them towers. They want their tower in there so they can monopolize the area, because they know that in a T-Mobile or Sprint or whoever is now available is going to have to go prove, well, they're going to have to prove that there is a need for that. And then, but if they build theirs first, it's going to block all the new towers coming in after, or anyone that wants to build their own tower. And they know that. It's a chess game. They want to get in there first so that they can say, I'm a taxi tower. You have to pay me if you want to use my servers. And that's what Vectrix does. They build a tower and then they charge you like a taxi. Every piece of data that goes through that tower then goes back, and they can go, hey, we're going to bill you just like LCC bills me, kilowatt per hour. And say, you used X. You owe us. So every cell phone that's out there that pings off their tower, they make money. That's all it's about. They want to get in there first, and they want to compete. They're trying to beat Verizon. They're trying to beat. That's why AT&T is here. Why isn't Verizon here? Because Verizon doesn't want to be here, because they hope that this doesn't pass so they can go try to find a new location to build their own. Or else Verizon would be here, right? It only makes sense. Why aren't they here now? But once that passes, they're gonna have a monopoly. They're gonna have a monopoly of that whole area, because that tower is the only one that could be built if you would pass it, and that's not what we need. It's totally obstructive. These people have farmed. We were trying to be farmers out there. There's a guy with honeybees out there. There's people with cattle. We got, like, this is the last part of Lee County of what Florida really was. Florida was never meant to be developed like it is getting developed. It's not. I could tell you right now, I've built houses. I've seen it, like, you build a house and 3 years later you got to come back and redo the foundation because it sinks. Like, Florida's not meant to be developed. It's meant to be farmed, and it's meant to be taken and be that way. But you know, the people want to come to Florida, so it's the money. It's a money thing, and I don't think our area should be used for someone to make money that's not going to help us at all. They're not. And they're going to probably say, oh, now we're going to do this and next. The tower does not need to be there for many reasons that we can't even say. You know, the federal court, they don't even recognize the radiation or whatever. They don't recognize it because no one's proved it, because one guy's going to say this and the other guy's say no. So you can't really bring that in court because you have to definitively say X. But there's a whole bunch of scientists all arguing different, saying this, oh, it's a carcinogen too. This guy's saying, oh, I don't get anything. But ask the cell tower guy, when you have to go and maintain them, you have to shut it down. The whole power has to be shut off. In order for that man to climb that tower, he has to wear a RF radiation suit and with a hazmat meter. So you tell me, with it off, how come he has to wear the suit, and why is he mandated to wear a little badge on there when he goes and goes up and maintains it up at the top if it's off? That means there's still residual radiation going on. Why would he have to wear a suit with it off and do it at night?
And I think you looked at, that's outside the scope of what we can.
Yeah, I know.
Preempted by federal government.
Yeah, I know, but still. And also, my last point is, the Act of 1996, the Towers Act, was made in 1996 when track phones came out, right? Well, guess what? Elon Musk made Starlink. So there's other areas that we can get cell phone service. We can have a lot of us have 60 to 70% of us already have Starlink because of that. Because we already know during electricity, everything has, hurricane, electricity has to be cut. We have Starlink. We go plug that thing right in the generator. Bam, we can call anybody and do anything. We don't need a cell phone tower. Never did. A lot of us probably could get away with just mailing letters out there. We don't need. Why do we need a cell phone tower? They need a cell phone tower to pay their bills and make more money. We're worried about farming and living life and doing the things that the past built us on. So please deny this. Please. stand up for us. This is a moment to be like, oh, you know, who cares about money? This is about people's livelihoods. This is about this. If they want to sue you, give them money. Let them have the money. Because if someone just wants money, here, take it. Just take it. Let them take it. Care. Because we want to know, it's about our livelihoods, about my neighbors and us and the way we live. If you need money, take the money. Take it. And just don't build the tower. Please.
Thank you. Thank you for the last card that I have is for Samantha Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Samantha Johnson. I live at 17065 Silver Panther. It's actually 21 acres, and it is just north of this property here. Is this property here? Yep. So this is my back pasture, and so you can see that the tower, I think, is right down here. So that would be my view. So I did also, I know it's repeating, but I did also want to comment on only having 9 days before a holiday to prepare for this. I do not feel that Vertex has proven beyond a doubt that there's not an alternative location nearby for a tower. As you've seen, there are towers on State Road 82, and one of them is owned by Vertex, and with their own admission, AT&T has just placed their equipment on that tower, which I believe they said was only 2.3 miles away. I did have a question about that tower at Lazy Susan. I believe they said that it was 113 feet high. So my question for that would be the tower proposed for Mulholland. What would be the lowest possible height that the fourth lowest carrier would be at? Is it lower than the 113 feet tower on Lazy Susan? Therefore, I believe that would prove that it's adequate for them to put their services at the Lazy Susan tower. And also, if you look at a tower site map for my location is completely surrounded by towers, service towers. And I wanted to know the generators. Generators do make noise. They said there would be no noise impact to the surrounding neighbors. Generators do make noise. I work at a facility and they store thousands of gallons of fuel to run the generators, and it is loud. So I would like to know how many generators would be located on the Mulholland property and how many gallons of fuel is going to be stored at that location to run those generators, and how often does it need to be refueled? So how often would the heavier trucks be transporting unknown gallons of fuel in our neighborhood? And I did have a question about the distance between the one property line. I believe it said 129 feet. And the tower is 149 feet, but how much height of base is this tower going to be sitting on? So therefore, wouldn't that make that more than 149 feet up in the air for the view? And if that tower happens to fall over, there's only 129 feet from the tower to the next property line, which could take down fences and be on the other person's property. I don't think that they have that in an adequate location to ensure that that will not happen. And then I would also like to comment on, I believe they said 4 foot of extension for a lightning rod. That is a concern. I believe that that would attract more lightning to that highest point in the area. And therefore, I think that would be an increased possibility for sparking a brush fire. And with that said, many times the first responders can't even get back there to us. As people have stated, the roads are flooded for months out of the year. Brush fires in that area, there's no way those big fire trucks are going to get back there if the roads are bad or flooded. There's been many times where first responders have waited at State Road 82 and Wildcat Drive, and they've had to send the sheriff's office vehicle back there for medical emergencies. So that is a big concern, because brush fires back there, and a lot of the homes are manufactured homes, and they go up fast. So there's an increased, with the increased chance of brush fire, there's an increased chance for loss of property and loss of life. Let's see here. So with the poor road conditions, that the road conditions are the responsibility of the homeowners that live there. And it is a battle constantly to come together and repair the roads, come up with funding for the roads. So therefore, most of the time, our roads are impassable. You have to pretty much have a four-wheel drive to get there. A lot of times, and especially after hurricanes, for months and months, we have water everywhere. I mean, we've had vehicles sink in just holes in the road. We've had to have, I have a swamp buggy. We've had to use that to be able to assist residents and deliver water and such. That's how bad the roads are. And the swamp buggy tires are like this high. So it's no joke. Let's see here. So as far as there not being adequate cell phone tower service in the area, I don't believe that that is accurate.
I'm sorry, is it someone, can we silence whatever phone is there, please?
He's trying.
I'm sorry, yeah, I know, I want to hold until we, thank you, yes, thank you.
Let's see, what was I saying? Oh, the cell phone service. Okay, the cell phone service. I don't feel that they have proven that there is this great need to put this big construction tower in our Ag 2 neighborhood. I have worked in the 911 community for over 30 years, and I've taken, I'm sorry. I have taken many calls that are, it's more than 2.5 miles from my house to State Road 82, and the 911 calls that come in, which I wanted to also add that that tower, I believe, was just over 2 miles, I think they said, to the tower. So just to give you an example, 911 calls, when they come in, if that tower is overloaded or full, they will bounce to the next tower that's nearest that location. If that tower is overloaded, they'll go to the next tower. They'll keep bouncing until they get a tower to where your signal can come in. And that's just a very, very small fraction of a time that all that takes place. Okay, so in my experience, I've never had a call come into 911 where anybody has ever said, we couldn't get through, we couldn't get through, we couldn't get through the location. Where I live up, or where I work, the calls come in that area up there where there's 3 different counties. So quite often, the calls bounce to the wrong tower, depending on the location of the person calling. So within fractions of a second, the call will bounce to another tower. So therefore, I want to say that 82 and Corkscrew is further away than from that location is further away than that tower at Lazy Susan, which I think was 2.3. So State Road 82 and Corkscrew is further away. There is no need, in my opinion, based on my experience, that that tower needs to be in our neighborhood, because those calls, those towers go for miles. I don't know how many exactly miles the calls will reach to a tower, but those calls will go in for miles from the towers. I work in Collier County. We get calls for Hendry County. We get calls for Lee County. People don't even realize that they're not calling the right county, because if that tower is busy, it went to the next tower. They don't even know. It happens so fast. They don't even know behind the scenes. It happens so fast that it bounces to the towers. They don't even know they're not calling the right county. So that's why I'm trying to explain to you that there's service all around that area. Let's see. And I believe the lady stated that, I believe her words were, there was adequate coverage, uniquely, the location is uniquely located, tucked away from Mulholland. Okay, well, the tower is uniquely located, tucked away from Mulholland because it's on the back of the property. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect those people in their surrounding properties. Just like the Sittenlowskis, they look out their bedroom window and they're going to see this big structure. We didn't buy, people didn't buy, the majority of people didn't buy out there for commercial equipment. We bought out there because it's uniquely located, just as she said. It's uniquely located. There's no commercial structures, there's no paved roads, there's less people, which means less crime. We bought there because that is what we wanted. I think that the reasons for this tower are all wrong, and it doesn't serve our community that is being surrounded by construction. We're being surrounded by construction, so just leave us alone. Let us have our tranquility and our safe space. Bringing in this type of construction, it's just wrong. I'm sorry, I'm the worst speaker. So I do believe that the whole reason for this is just to line their pockets. They haven't proven beyond a doubt that this is absolutely necessary. We all, I'm pretty sure, got the letter saying, hey, we want to put a tower on your property. We'll pay you money. You'll get money monthly. Let's give you some money. Nobody. But this one person, which unfortunately they had a need for money in their pocket, but that one person should not impose on our tranquility. I did also want to reiterate about the gopher turtles. I'm not sure exactly how far away that you can impose on the gopher turtle sites. I believe it's 25 feet circumference around it. I'm not sure about that, but that is also a concern. I believe it should be a concern as far as them driving in, and if they're going to build a road or an easement to the tower location, that should also be reviewed. And let me just give me a moment to check my notes here. I'm sorry, like 9 days was not near enough time to be able to prepare for this, especially working 2 jobs. I believe the statement that they provided said it had adequate foliage. I did want to touch on that. Who or how do they determine what is adequate foliage? Is that just the foliage to cover the fence line that they're making? And they also did talked about the the foliage or trees in the surrounding neighborhoods that, okay, there's all these trees there. My property there, I had over 150 pine trees, tall pine trees on my property. After the hurricane came through, I think it's some kind of bug or beetle that kills the pine trees. I lost all of those trees except for a couple. So all those trees that were there blocking the view from my neighbors' properties, even though it's 21 acres, I don't want to see my neighbors. That's why I went there. So those trees are gone. So there's no guarantee that all these trees that may still be standing there are still going to be there to block the view of the lower portion of this tower. When I sit down in my backyard, I'm going to see that tower sticking up in the air, protruding. And I mean, it's a beautiful location. You know, you can sit out there at night and see the sunset going down, coming over, and that just is not going to be very beautiful to see a big metal tower sticking up in the air next to my property. So that was, I think I already asked about how many gallons of fuel that would be there for the generators, how often they would be coming in to replace the fuel. Let's see here. I don't agree with that person's assessment of it not diminishing the property value. You know, were the right people asked during this survey or whatever they want to call it? And like he had even said, basically to the fact that, you know, if something wasn't the right question wasn't asked or something, then you're going to get the wrong output of whatever it is you're trying to survey. But I do believe that that putting that tower there would impact the property values tremendously. And like it was mentioned, it pretty much states in a lot of information 20% devalue of your property. So I believe that's a great concern. I mean, especially for those, you know, I think a lot of people that bought here wanted to retire and stay there because it's just beautiful, and there's not many places in Lee County that you can be so close to the interstate and to the shopping around the interstate and the grocery stores that are left in Lee County. And, you know, we couldn't go and leave our location at the prices that we paid and go somewhere else and buy 21 acres. There's no way I could buy 21 acres anywhere in Lee County for a portion of what I paid for this property. It's just not possible. So, I think that, you know, it does impact the property values, regardless of what they're saying their report says. And just bear with me, I'm just going to check my notes to see if I missed anything. I believe I touched on all my points. I really appreciate you listening to us, and I adamantly request that you deny this special exemption.
Thank you for coming. Cards I had, but if there was anyone else, if you would like to speak, yes, thank you. If there's anyone else that wants to speak and fill out a card, now is the chance. So this is Matthew, and I apologize, Hawksley?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to echo the concerns of all the other people who came today in opposition to the tower. It's not a good fit for our neighborhood. If you zoomed out on this map, you'd see just many other residences and houses on here, all, as you can see, all surrounding. Zoom, if you look up just a little bit, there's, you know, about 30 more properties just right there. Many other, those are all residences. So this is a residential area. I'd also like to say I live just 5 properties away from the tower, and within the blue 1 mile radius of their search zone, and I use LTE internet as my main home internet. Okay, I have high-speed gaming access, streaming. We have all the megabytes per second you could ever want. There is no gap in service. There's no need for any more service in our area. So, and that'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Every card. Was there anyone else that wished to speak today?
Can I just add something?
I'm sorry, there's one opportunity. I apologize. If there was something that you wanted to speak to the parties when we're on recess or after the hearing, you can do so, but I can't accept any additional comment on the record. So I'll close public comment then. I'm going to take a brief recess before we come back. Is 10 minutes sufficient, or do you need more time to prepare a rebuttal? Okay, then we'll reconvene at 11:30 for rebuttal and closing comments by the parties. Thank you. Okay, we're back on the record. We'll begin now with the applicant's rebuttal.
Thank you. I do have, I want to start that with just a couple questions of staff about noticing, if I may.
Would you like me to go up there, or do you want?
Sure. It's wherever you're most comfortable. Ms. Schroeder, who is Schrader, I'm sorry. Who is responsible for the noticing on this particular application to the community?
Lee County staff.
Okay. And did you provide noticing consistent with the code?
Yes, we did. We provided one when the initial submittal was sent on November 7th, 2025, and then when a tentative date was scheduled, we sent that out June 22nd, 2026.
So this community had notice in November of 2025 of this particular pending application?
That is correct.
Okay, everyone, again, I need to be able to hear. Thank you. I need everyone to hold comments.
Okay, Mr. Ruiz is going to come up here and address a lot of the construction type issues that were raised by the community members, and then I will follow up with some other things.
Thank
you. Good morning, Alan Ruiz with Vertex Development. There were some concerns raised about generators. So a little bit about generators. Each carrier will have their own individual emergency generator. The generators run in case of emergencies when there's no power. The only other time that they are in operation is, as I mentioned previously, typically once a quarter for a 10 to 15 minute stretch. So I know there's a big concern, the community has a big concern about when generators are running and if they're going to be creating all this noise. Again, typically 4 times a year for a 10 to 15 minute stretch unless there is no power in the area. There were some concerns about fuel and what types of fuel and what storage, quantity of storage. And that varies from carrier to carrier. Some carriers have their, well, all carriers have their own internal environmental assessment departments. And they may make an assessment, hey, in this area, we're going to go with propane instead of diesel. In other cases, they may say, hey, this area is just fine with diesel. So that's going to vary between each carrier. And then the amount of storage fuel that they store on site, again, will be dependent on the type and size of generator that they use. So unfortunately, I'm not able to address those numbers specifically, but that's kind of a generalized answer as far as fuel goes.
Is there a payment protocol, though, that requires them to meet certain?
Yes. The carriers are very environmentally sensitive, and if for no other reason, it's because they would be in direct line to clean up any kind of environmental spill or hazard or situation that they created. They use for propane and for diesel generators, they use the propane storage tanks and the diesel storage tanks that they buy directly from the manufacturer of the generator. They follow all they have to get these permitted when they come in to install them as part of their installation. And so, of course, they're going to follow all the Lee County building codes to install them. Regarding the height of the tower, there was some discussion about whether or not the tower would actually be taller than 149 feet. So the way this would work is the tower is going to sit on a foundation, a caisson type foundation. What a caisson is basically a cylinder of concrete that goes down into the ground. It's typically about 9 feet in diameter. It typically is about a foot above ground level. So when we are coming in here looking to do a 149-foot tower, in reality what we're doing is we're saying that the top of the tower will be 145 feet above ground level. Then there's a 4-foot lightning rod because Lee County measures the height including all appurtenances. So if our caisson is going to be a foot above the ground, we'll have 144 feet of steel so that the top of the steel is at 145, and then the 4-foot lightning rod will be at 149 at the top. We actually do a tape drop where we take a tape measure while we're up there in a man basket on the crane lifts and drops the tape measure down and take pictures of it to have proof that we're meeting that requirement. The antennas will be what they call the rad center, the radiation center of the antenna, essentially the center of the antenna. for the carrier at the very top, AT&T will be 140, right? So their 8-foot antenna will be 4 feet up from 140 and 4 feet down from 140. And so the top of their antennas are going to be at 144. So that they'll be at parallel, the tops of the antennas will be even with the top of the steel of the tower. Nothing will be above the lightning rod. Obviously, you don't want anything above the lightning rod. So that goes to the height of the tower and the above ground level height.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you for just a minute since
Please.
we have this slide up. What is the bottom center line on this tower design? What's that elevation?
That's going to be 110 feet.
110 feet. And Mr. Brousseau testified that he was the last guy to go on that tower up on 82, and he got a center line of 113, roughly
Yes.
equivalent to the lowest height here.
And to add on to that, when you're designing the height of the tower, you have to take into consideration what all the carriers in the marketplace are going to need. You can't design the tower for the shortest possible height for someone to use, because then when the second guy shows up and he wants to co-locate on that tower, there won't be enough available height. And so you're going to need another tower to accommodate that carrier.
You want to talk about lightning rod too while we got this up?
Yeah, so, okay, there's some concern about lightning strikes. Of course, I understand that. If anything, this tower will make the immediate area much, much safer when it comes to lightning strikes. The carriers have literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, each carrier on electronic equipment on these towers. We have the lightning rod on the tower. If there was a strike, it will go down the tower, it will hit the lightning rod, go down the tower. We put an intricate, extensive grounding system inside of our lease area, inside of our compound, and everything is grounded. Every carrier's lease area within the compound, the tower compound, where their equipment sits, that's all grounded. The fence is grounded, the electrical rack is grounded, everything is grounded. So any lightning in the area that strikes that tower is going to go straight down into the ground. If anything, this will deter it from striking a 60-foot tree that could potentially cause a brush fire, which I've heard that to be a concern. So if anything, this is a benefit to the community with regards to lightning strikes. There was some concerns about construction of the tower and the road and bringing equipment back in there. The construction for a tower site is generally very quick. It's a fast process relative to constructing any kind of structure. It typically takes 45 to 60 days to build a site. And a lot of that is downtime. The heavy equipment that'll come in, of course, there's going to be a crane that's going to be needed to set the tower. There are going to be concrete trucks, typically 5 or 6 concrete trucks that'll come in to pour the foundation. There's going to be a drill rig that'll come in to excavate for the foundation. And the tower will be delivered typically on 2 flatbeds, 18-wheeler flatbeds that come in. I've been doing towers since 1997. We've literally done hundreds of towers throughout the state. We've dealt with many roads in far worse condition than this. And typically what we have to do is we improve the road so that we can get those vehicles back in there. If anything, the roads will be in better condition when we leave and we're done with the construction of this site. Once the tower is built, you're done seeing that type of equipment going back there. The way the carriers install their antennas and their lines on the tower is by bringing in, you have tower climbers that are going to climb the tower, and they're going to set up a pulley and winch system, a pulley on the tower itself, and then typically the winch is located on the back of a F-250, F-350, a larger type pickup truck, and they're going to winch the equipment or the antennas up there. So once the tower is built, it's very, very unlikely that you're going to see anything more than a pickup truck, maybe hauling a trailer going back there. So there's the construction, and with regards to the road, like I said, if anything, because of what we have to get back there, those roads will more than likely need to be improved for us to get our equipment back there. So we will more than likely leave those roads in much better condition than we found them. After that, it'll be typical use of, like I said, a light utility truck or a van. There were some concerns about wind loading. This tower is built to the most current EIA, TIA, Florida Building Code standards. In this particular area, that is 160 mile-an-hour wind speeds. Every engineer that designs a tower puts some sort of a safety factor on this, at a bare minimum, a 10%. So when you're looking at a 10% safety factor on 160 mile-an-hour wind speeds, now you're talking about 176 mile-an-hour winds that it would take for this tower to have any kind of a failure whatsoever. And that goes, that criteria goes not only into the thickness of the steel that's used for the tower, the size of the anchor bolts, the size of the caisson foundation, the size of every part of the tower. If this tower was to fail during a hurricane with wind speeds greater than 176 mile an hour, for example, the way these towers fail is they bend like a straw. They don't fall over. There's not, in all the hurricanes we've seen this millennium, there has not been any monopole in Florida that has literally just fallen over, okay? They bend like a straw. And once the bend happens, the wind loading is reduced dramatically. Now, I'm not saying that other towers haven't failed. Guy towers have a high likelihood of failing, and that's what a lot of people hear about, but this is not what we're proposing.
Typically on the testimony in other cases has been that with the fall zone technology, it will stay within the lease compound area. Is that correct, within the property boundaries? That's the development order question, but it always comes up.
Well, let's go to, it's probably a good time to address the setback, because that was raised too. People use the 129.8 foot dimension over here, but that is the distance from the property line to the edge of the compound. The distance from the property line to the center of tower is 151.5 to the west, and it's 150.5 to the north. So we are meeting the code requirement on the setback, because you measure it to the center of the tower. And you see we're proposing a 149-foot fall zone radius because we can keep that all within the parent parcel. So there's no danger of that falling outside of the subject property. So we are meeting setback requirements.
Okay, so the next slide that you had was your setback table. I had referenced that, so that is correct.
Yes,
with
that
the
is absolutely
right-hand
correct. Yes.
measurements that you have there. Okay.
Yes, yes. And we're meeting the district setbacks as well. Okay, I interrupted you.
No, you're good, you're good. All right, so that was the wind speeds. There were some concerns about the soil conditions out there and whether generators being on and rattling will cause them to sink, or whether or not the tower would sink or anything like that. Prior to any construction whatsoever, we would go out there, a geotech company would go out there that we would hire, and they would do soil testing all along the access road, at the center of tower, and at various points within the compound. So when they do the soil testing, they drill down, and every 10 feet, some do 5, some do 10, they'll pull up a soil sample, and they'll go another 5 or 10 feet, and they'll pull up the soil sample, and they'll put together a comprehensive report as to what the soil conditions are in that area. The tower foundation is designed based off of that soil report, and that soil report is also given to the carriers for them to design the platforms and the concrete paths that their equipment sit on, which their generators sit on. Again, Florida is very sandy. These carriers have built hundreds of thousands of sites across the state. This is not the only site that they would have those types of conditions to deal with, so they know how to account for them.
And all of that technical analysis is submitted as part of the building permit application for the tower. We're just at the zoning level.
Another issue I'd like to address is the water management district that we're in, Southwest Florida Water Management. Are we in Swiftland? Yeah. South Florida. We're in South Florida, sorry. Regardless, we will be applying to South Florida Water Management District either to do a 10-2 self-certification, or if we have to do an environmental resources permit, it'll be them who determines that, and we will follow their guidance on that. So we will get a permit from the Water Management District to build this site. Another concern I heard were gopher tortoises. And again, I'm not sure how they're on the endangered species list, because we find them every site we do. What we do for every site is we hire an environmental firm typically Tri-Leaf Engineering. They will go out and they will do a phase 1 and a NEPA study. The NEPA study will identify any endangered species, of which the gopher tortoise is on that list. If gopher tortoises are found within the 25-foot radius of any improvements whatsoever, that environmental firm will then, they will be the ones that will relocate on the property the gopher tortoises. They're licensed to do that. We have to put silt fencing around their relocation area, double silt fencing around their relocation area, so that during the construction period, they're not able to migrate over and be endangered. So that gopher tortoise are most certainly accounted for and taken into account. I think that's everything on the list.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the
Thank you.
easements. There was an assertion by one of the community members that we would need to get permission to use the roads, and we're getting down all the way to the end. And we'll put this in the record. This is a composite exhibit of the 3 access easements.
Thank you. So this will be applicant exhibit 17 as a composite exhibit.
That apply to the subject property, that allow us access along Mulholland, up Silver Panther, up, what?
Tina's then?
Well, there's another road up there.
And Wildcat.
Wildcat, Tina, and then out to 82. These 3 easements get all the way, and the community is correct. These are private roads, but there are easements, recorded easements out there that benefit all of the property owners. And they're very liberal easements. They provide full and free right and liberty for the holders of the easements, their tenants, servants, visitors, licensees, in common with all other persons having a like right, blah, 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 for all purposes connected with the use and enjoyment of the land of the grantee and those likely situated for whatever purposes. So every single property owner out there benefits from these easements and can use those roads to do whatever construction or development on their own property. They don't have to go back and get permission from other property owners. And this came up in our title work. Let's go back up to the special exception criteria. I think I've addressed all of the citizen commentary, unless you think there's something that piqued your interest that you would like me to address.
The questions that I had, just for points of clarification, would be directed to the staff. So
okay,
you've addressed what you need to for the record.
Well, I'm going to talk just a little bit about the objection that we didn't prove need. And we go by what your code says. We get your code, and your code requires that we prove that there isn't an existing structure. And actually, your code is in alignment with Florida law that tells local governments that they can't inquire about providers' design service. They can only ask and provide regulations that relate to legitimate land use issues. And the ability to use an existing structure is a legitimate land use issue. So we have provided proof that there are no existing structures in the search area that AT&T wishes to expand service that can support the antenna. So we've met our burden of proof on that particular issue. Here's your special exception criteria. I demonstrated earlier that we are consistent with the goals, objectives, policies of and intent of the Lee Plan. We had additional Lee Plan policies that apply because it's in the groundwater resource area. We submitted a very detailed and very lengthy study that was submitted as part of the application way back when, and the staff has had the time to thoroughly review that study. And the staff agrees that we meet all of the policies of the Lee Plan. That we will protect or conserve or preserve environmentally critical and sensitive areas. Again, that's part of that environmental modeling. You've just heard Alan talk about the fact that we will, as part of our site plan approval process, we will address endangered species, habitat, anything like that that we impact will comply with the Water Management District requirements. But again, those are all site plan issues. Will be compatible with existing and planned uses. I want to remind you that 75-foot towers in ag properties are permitted uses. So that's a policy embedded in your code already, that cell phone towers are not inherently incompatible with agricultural zoning. They are compatible as of right to 75 feet. We need higher than that, so we need to get special exception approval. So we're really only talking about the increase in height from 75 to 149. That's really the subject of the special exception application. We've demonstrated through our photosim analysis that it has very little visibility in this community, and that we meet all of the additional environmental issues that apply out in this area. It will not be injurious to the neighborhood or detrimental to the public welfare. It was hard to listen to some of the travails that this neighborhood has suffered from storms and other events, but it proves that just living in a rural community does not make you immune from the perils of life. And a robust, solid, reliable wireless network in your community will only enhance your public safety and make it better for you in those times of travail. And we're in compliance with the zoning regulations. You didn't hear any competent substantial evidence from any member of the community that we don't meet all of the performance criteria in your code for wireless towers. Your staff has determined that we meet all of the performance criteria. And these are additional findings that you need to make. We've historical resources in the area. There's no scenic highways or scenic view sheds in the area. You heard David Talby give you expert testimony that it won't diminish residential property values. You didn't hear any competent substantial evidence from the community on that issue, just opinions, non-expert opinions. And it won't reduce the quality or function of any natural or man-made resources. And we will agree to implement all reasonable measures to mitigate the potential adverse impacts of the structures and facilities. So with that, we believe that we have met all of the criteria of the code. We've met all of our burdens of proof, and we would ask for your approval.
Thank you. Staff's ready for your rebuttal.
I know it was briefly talked about, but staff just wants to kind of add more information to the record. It comes down to the courtesy notice. Land Development Code section 34-202 requires the applicant to provide a surrounding property owners list. For wireless communication towers, it is 1,000 feet, it's a 1,000-foot radius. If it's found there's less than 10 property owners surrounding the area, it bumps that up to 1,250 feet. Once that's been done and the application has been submitted, then staff sends out a courtesy notice to the public. This was done November 7th, 2025, and then when the case had a tentative hearing date, the next courtesy notice was in June 22nd, 2026. This is compliant with the Administrative Code 2-8. In that Administrative Code, it does say that a courtesy notice is not jurisdictional, and it is just a courtesy notice. So if it is not delivered in a timely manner from when USPS were to say grab it, it does not prohibit or constitute the hearing to not happen. However, there are certain regulations within the Administrative Code and the Land Development Code for newspaper advertisement, which is the publication of affidavit that you got today, as well as postage signage on the site. Both were met, and it was appropriately advertised in compliance with the Administrative Code and Land Development Code. That's all staff has when it comes down to that, unless you have any other questions for staff.
Just for the record, there was a concern at the very outset that 34-144-1444B, was in there, had been crossed out. Have you seen any efforts towards that, of removing the exception from the DRGR? There was testimony from one member of the
Is it with
public.
regards to the wireless communication tower not being prohibited from within that future land use category?
That's correct.
From what staff review this type of tower is exempt from that. So it is permittable.
And that has been the case since that code was adopted?
That is correct.
Changes that you're aware of?
Correct.
And there was also a question about if there were commercial properties, because one of the hierarchy findings, as we talked about, was that there can't be a more intense category that would allow for a tower within that area. Was the future development within the Kingston area looked at within, for staff from that question? That was something that came up. It's not a developed commercial parcel, but I don't know what that, we don't.
I would have to review my staff report just to verify that.
Well, and I did not see, is the geographic search ring somewhere in the staff report? You do not have to provide the propagation maps, but the geographic search ring is something that was supposed to be, and I just didn't see it. We talked about it, and you have the list of where, that's something that you can supplement. I'm certain it was provided in the application at some point. I just don't have it in the materials that I have today.
I can circle back with you and just verify.
Okay. And for the balloon testing, there was also a concern. Does the staff review when it comes in the location of the balloon testing to ensure that it is demonstrated that it was shown within the same lease area that they're proposing?
Yes, I'll have to verify it, but I believe in the land development code, it states that staff and the applicant work together to find 8 sightlines, and then the applicant will provide those balloon tests in accordance with those sightlines. So there was some back and forth on making sure that that was.
And under the code, that's a development order stage. It's actually premature at this point.
Yes.
Because it was raised, it's something that I wanted to get addressed for the record, whether or not that had been confirmed. And then the last question I had, and the applicant touched on it, but I just want to know from staff's perspective as well, for the environmental review, for the finding that has to be made for the special exception, it's talking about environmental characteristics of the property, preserving natural resources, that portion of it. Will the county evaluate prior to the development if there are any protected species concerns?
That should be at the time of development order.
Okay, so it will be looked at, it's just
Yes.
not at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And just the final confirmation, I know we hammered this during it, but it kept coming up. The findings that you reviewed about the geographic search ring and the appropriateness of the location, that did include the property, the tower, excuse me, that's 2.3 miles?
I believe that was worked out. Yes, it did include that.
Okay. Yes, did you have some on the geographic search ring?
Oh, no, I just wanted to point out that there are a lot of code provisions about the required photo sim and the balloon test. And the code actually provides that the vantage points of the photo sim is something that you discuss in the pre-application meeting, which we did, and we coordinated those locations with the staff. And then there are other requirements in the definition of the photo sim as to where the photos are supposed to be taken. It's kind of like a clockwork thing, and we did confirm that with staff, and our photo sims align with that analysis. It's in the definition of photo sim. Sightlines. Using a quadrangle map, you have to minimum of 8 view lines beginning at true north and then continuing clockwise at 45-degree intervals in a 2-mile radius from the site. So we did discuss that with the staff, multiple locations, and came to an agreement about where our photo sim locations should be taken from. I don't have any proof right now that the balloon was not flown at the center of the tower, but that's generally where they are. That's the direction to the balloon person to do that. But I can tell you that the subsequent photo sims that are developed using the center of tower location. So I find that surprising, but I wasn't out there.
We're good.
I just want to confirm again. So was there application material at any point that does define what the geographic search ring was? I don't need the propagation maps, but is there something that shows that was not something that was provided?
No.
And staff didn't require that?
Are you referring to that 2-mile radius? Just wanted to make sure.
It's
I'm on the
not
same
something
page.
that's defined under the code, and I'm trying to put my hands on it now. And it's
The
not,
definition is just where it's proposed, means an area in which it's proposed to be located.
That's right, but there's a requirement. It's not in the application, it's under the development regulations, and I'm just trying to put my finger on it. It gets back to the concern about proliferation. So it's in 341447. In the documentation, it's part of the application. It's not, again, part of the findings, but it's something that we always have seen, and it's curious that we don't have it. It just says that additional documentation must be submitted to demonstrate that there are no buildings or structures within the geographic search area that have sufficient strength to support the applicant's radio frequency engineering requirements. So it's getting to that question of what search area you're looking at, because again, the concern is that we're not going to be back here in a year or two saying that now we need another tower a mile away because this one isn't going to be sufficient.
Well, we can, yeah.
I mean, we're happy to we didn't submit one, and our application was deemed complete. We're happy to supplement the application with this geographic search area.
I can leave the record open for written submissions for you to do that, however much time that you need to provide it. If it's a week or less, you can email that.
Absolutely.
I'll issue an order for written submissions to be provided, and then that becomes part of the written record that everybody can see. So I will leave the record open for that then by the end of business on the 17th. If you get it sooner, that's perfectly acceptable, but that way at least we can make sure that we have a complete record for that purpose.
We'll get it.
Okay, was there anything final for closing statements that the applicant or the staff wanted to provide?
Pretty much done mine.
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right, well then, the record is left open solely for supplementing the record with that item by end of business on the 17th, July 17th. For everybody that came today, thank you very much. If you submitted a card, you will receive a copy of the decision once that is released. I will begin working on that once the record is closed and I have everything that I need to make my determination. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate your time and being part of the process. And thank you to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.